Fed Chair Janet Yellen acknowledged the country is facing, quote, unacceptable levels of inflation before Congress today, a fact that the rest of us are painfully aware of. It's been months of skyrocketing prices at the grocery store, the gas pump, and beyond, which President Biden says the White House is doing everything in its power to address.
I've been very clear that fighting inflation is my top economic priority. And there's no denying that high prices, particularly around gasoline and food, are a real problem for people. But there's every reason for the American people to feel confident that we'll meet these challenges.
Not everyone is feeling that confidence, though, and some, including the CEO of financial giant J.P. Morgan Chase, believe a recession could be on the horizon.
That hurricane is right out there down the road coming our way.
So while we wait for the storm to pass, how do we navigate the rising price of just about everything? I'm joined now by NPR correspondent Chris Arnold, who's been closely following these financial struggles, both for us and I'm sure in his own home. Chris Arnold, welcome. You know, this is a very complicated economy, and it's a midterm election year. So that's another storm that's happening. But, you know, whether we compare ourselves to 5 years ago or to the period right after World War II, which many economists like to do because of the upheaval of World War II and the upheaval of COVID, things are really expensive and it's not looking any better.
Right. Yeah. When the clip you played of Jamie Dimon saying there's a storm coming, when the most powerful banker in the world starts talking about an economic hurricane, guess we all should pay attention. But, you know, the truth is right now there's recessions and there's recessions. So people shouldn't panic. And, you know, there's a very good chance that even if we do technically slip into recession, it wouldn't be that bad. But, you know, people always want to do something, you know, at times like this. And we can talk about there's some good things to do and some bad things to do. But a lot of us are actually in a very good position right now. I mean, there's a lot of things to be positive about, right? I mean, the unemployment rate's very low. Almost everybody has a job. A lot of people still have sort of forced savings, if you will, from the pandemic when none of us could go out to eat very easily for like 2 years, right? So that we can talk about some of people are in a pretty strong financial position now. I mean, not everybody, certainly. If you've lost your job in the pandemic and we're struggling, there are people in that situation. But if not, there are some things you can do right now to kind of batten down the hatches and be in good shape, I think.
I want to jump into that in just a second, but I also want to talk about the powers of what any president can really do regarding controlling inflation and what the Federal Reserve can do. The presidency doesn't allow for a lot of latitude in lowering prices or putting controls on. The Federal Reserve, they can raise the interest rates to kind of slow down the market, but sometimes that can lead us to at least a short-term recession. I'm no expert, but isn't that pretty much the whole amount of power that these two powers have?
Yeah, arguably the Fed has a lot more power than the president to really turn the knobs and pull the levers because the president's got to deal with Congress most of the time. But yeah, you know, the Fed's most concerned about inflation right now. And the Fed is willing to sacrifice some economic growth, to hit the brakes so that we do slow things down. And you see that most dramatically in the housing market, where mortgage rates react very quickly. You can move a lot. And we've seen that. I mean, in some parts of this country, it's gotten twice as expensive in the last 2 years to buy basically the same house when you add, 30-40% price gains in 2 years, plus the big jump in interest rates, and that's just shut down the house. I mean, not shut down. It certainly slowed down the housing market a lot. I mean, realtors are talking about this. People are lowering prices when, things are staying on the market longer already. Yes, that some of that is happening. Again, I don't think people should panic, though. I mean, that's part of the plan. It's like, let's tap the brakes, let's slow things down so inflation doesn't get a full head of steam here.
All right, so let's get to what folks can do. I'm never really quite sure how to tier this. If you are an average American, whatever the heck that is, maybe you are the beginning of middle age, you might have kids, teenagers, maybe one in college, you are employed, you're in a 2-income household. What should you think about doing in order to blunt any impact that a recession long-term or short-term might have on your family finances?
Right. Two things. One is our human impulses kind of get in the way in like times like this, you know, where it's like, oh no, a storm might be coming already. The stock market's fallen a bit, you know, or more than a bit. People want to, you know, we have this human impulse, like after stocks already fall, to sell stocks, you know, which is not a very good way to make money. Is buy them high and sell them low, right? So, you know, you want to stay on the roller coaster. If you're going to retire in 30 years or something, there's no reason to start, you know, making big moves in your savings and your investments just because stocks are going down. But I think that there are things you can do. Again, a lot of us, you know, still have some savings from back when we couldn't go out to eat. I think now is a good time to sort of get the lay of the land and, you know, do a little housekeeping in a way, you know, like set up, have you started saving for your kids' college? You know, if not, start a 529 plan with, you know, you got some thousands of dollars sitting there in an account that you didn't have before, or, you know, consciously move that money into something that's what we call a buffer account, which is like an emergency fund, and set up an automatic payment so money keeps going in there out of every paycheck. And what that does is, you know, after a little bit, you might have $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in there. And, you know, if your furnace breaks, or maybe you do lose your job for a couple of months, that will really help, you know, and now is the time to sort of do some of those things to set that up so that if the hurricane does hit, you know, you're in a slightly better position to weather it, or just to take advantage of the moment to, okay, I'm not just going to spend this money on Chinese food over the next 2 years. I'm going to start a 529 plan to save for my kids' college.
Speaking of Chinese food, I was talking to a delivery guy last night who, you know, we were just chit-chatting about how many jobs he had. I mean, he pulled up in a really nice car and he was really well dressed. And I said, wow, things must be good for you because he looked so good. Kidding, of course, in a nice non-confrontational way. And we just started chatting about how many jobs he has right now. And he was really happy about it. And then talking about, to your point, how he was going to start saving for his son's college. So if you are able to do so, this is a really good time for you to take a number of jobs if that's how you're oriented, right?
Sure. I mean, if you're young and you got energy and you know, that, yes, I mean, that you can, there's all kinds of jobs that they can't fill. I mean, I was hearing, you know, and reading, it's tough to find like lifeguards for the swimming pool. I mean, that seems like a pretty good job. You know, you're sitting in the sun twirling the whistle, but they're having trouble even filling those jobs, right? So yeah, certainly, you know, and some people, of course, it's hard if you're a single parent and you're taking care of kids, and you know, there are limitations, but yeah, there are jobs out there for the taking at the moment, for sure.
And what if you're at the other end of your economic journey? You either have just retired, or you're expecting to retire, or you have a house and you're not sure if you want to sell it because, if, as everyone in my family always says, where am I going to go? What am I going to afford if I sell this? You know, is it time to get cash on hand? Is it time to double down and invest in your retirement, or just go the way you're going?
Well, you know, the way I think about this is up until the point you retire, you're playing checkers. It's very simple. Like I could tell you what to do, how to like save and invest for the future. It's not that complicated. The point where you leave the accumulation phase and you get into the consumption phase, where you're actually going to start selling the stocks that you've had for a long time, and you need that money to live on, things get a lot more complicated. And I think then it really is good to sit down with a financial advisor who can look at your individual situation and help you figure out the best plan. But you want to be careful with how you do that. You know, there are advisors and advisors, and some of them will charge you fees that are way too high or steer you into stuff with big commissions. A simple rule of thumb is you want a fee-only advisor, not fee-based, because that means something else, but fee-only. And that means the person who's helping you is just getting paid by you and not getting some commission for putting you into some pricey investment. They're going to charge you a lot of fees. There's a group called it's called NAPFA. I wrote it down so I'd remember. The National Association of Personal Financial Advisors, and everybody who's a member of that has no conflicts, and they're going to help you just on a fee-only basis.
Chris, one of the reasons that we have inflation, you know, there's a number of reasons, but one is that some companies are charging more because they can, because there's been pent-up demand. You know, some are charging because they have to cover costs, some are charging because they need to pay more, but some are just charging because they can. And I'm wondering if Americans decide to be a little bit more prudent in their spending, in the spending that they're making for fun or going out, or just buying less, as we're seeing a report from Walmart about numbers of people purchasing less this year. Do you think that that might help to drive prices down if companies see that people are holding back on spending?
You know, it's such a tricky that there's so many there are a million different things moving in different directions when it comes to prices. And I think by and large, my guess is there's competition, and prices are where they are for pretty good reasons. But that said, I mean, just anecdotally, I had some shingle repair work to do on my house here in New England, right? And the guy I was talking to is like, well, normally a box of shingles is like $150, but right now it's $650. And I'm like, well, let's just hold off on even on principle. It's like, no, I'll just wait till next year. I mean, I think it is, I don't know. It's my, I don't know. It's never, if you don't have to absolutely do it right now, why do it when prices are 4 times normal or 6 times normal?
Right. All right. Chris Arnold, we appreciate your expertise on this. We'll check back in as this short-term inflation continues to go on. I appreciate you. Chris Arnold, thank you.
Thank you, Sue.